Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review, and for this review Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from six-piece deathcore band Distant. The band's new album, Aeons of Oblivion, will be released on June 11th via Unique Leader Records. So, ladies and gents, if you're a long-time listener of our reviews and podcasts, then you'll have no doubt heard us bang on about this Dutch Slovakian six-piece at some point over the last year. You'll probably have heard us talk about them. I think it's safe to say they've been one of the most productive bands throughout the last couple of years, and obviously throughout the lockdown and stuff. Releasing their debut album Tyrant in 2019, and then Dawn of Corruption, their EP, in October 2020. And then the Dusk of Anguish EP in March 2021. This new release, Aeons of Oblivion, is kinda the last piece of the puzzle from the band. This is the story's conclusion and the final part to the band's previous releases, Dawn of Corruption and Dusk of Anguish. The album totals over 1 hour in length and includes the 12 tracks from the previous two EPs, plus an intro. And then you have 5 brand new tracks plus a bonus track. So 19 tracks of soul crushing deathcore. We reviewed the 2 previous EPs when they were released. So I'm not necessarily going to go into kind of grave detail on those tracks. I'll put links to those reviews in the description below so you can listen to hear what we had to say about those. I'm going to kind of mainly concentrate on the new tracks. And kind of whether this works as a 19-track album. Now, I will lay my cards on the table. I did ask for this. I did at the end of both EPs. I'm pretty sure at the end of both EP reviews
both
I
EPs,
said...
yeah, both.
I did say...
I said, give me an album. And they were like, all right.
I want an album, yeah. I did. The EPs were great. I really enjoyed them. But I did say I wanted more and to hear what they would do on like a full length. I did not expect them to come back with 19 tracks worth. And initially I was like a little concerned that this might just be overload. Like deathcore can be a very exhausting genre just because of its kind of relentless nature. So the thought of like an hour of this was a little bit daunting, I'm not going to lie. And you know, we've reviewed stuff over the last year which is, you know, kind of crept into that almost like hour mark just over, and sometimes it is a bit of a slog to get through. But fear not, I fired into it regardless, right into some Distant. As I said, I enjoyed the EPs, so I dived right into this. The first 12 tracks of the album are the tracks from the previous 2 EPs. They're not necessarily in the same order that they're in on the EPs. They've kind of mixed the tracks around from the 2 EPs. But because the 2 EPs were very similar in tone and theme, the flow of the tracks does work. I think that kind of ominous background layer, it kind of binds everything together, to be honest. Even though they were released in different time periods and they may have been recorded at different times, I'm not entirely sure, but like if you let me hear those on their own, I wouldn't have known that they were, you know, from 2 separate things. They sound very similar in tone and theme. But anyway, let's get on with this new stuff. I'm going to be completely honest here. The length of this album, I had no issues with at all. I tore through my first listen of this. Those first like 12 tracks for me flew in, like, and then because the remaining tracks were all kind of new, I felt like I was getting something fresh in the kind of last third to keep me going, keep me engaged. So lengthwise, surprisingly, I didn't have a problem with this, not at all. And even when I went back to it and gave it repeat listens, I thought maybe it was just a fluke on that first listen, that I was just so excited to hear it that I didn't really, I wasn't really bothered about it. But I went back and listened to my third and fourth listen. I didn't have an issue with the length at all. And that was surprising because I was fully 100% expecting to come on to this review and say, this is far too long. But I can't complain about the length at all. The last 7 tracks, for me, I actually had some of the kind of biggest atmospheric moments of the album, starting with the calm, kind of serene intro of Ritual 1, which then bleeds into Ritual 2, Ravka. These tracks are still brutally heavy, don't get me wrong, but that kind of shadowy kind of smog or haze that they use, it felt bigger for some reason on that last part of the album. Vermillion Rivers was one of the singles they released from the kind of batch of new tracks, and it's just kind of loaded with these big kind of spacey sounds and echoey lead work, but it still keeps within the kind of tone of the material that's come before it. The Tyrant's Covenant is an absolute ripper of a track. It features Kyle Anderson from Brand of Sacrifice, and it sounds thick, absolutely thick. That riff at the beginning, it almost sounds like it's a bass that's playing the main riff. It's so low and kind of dense sounding, and I'm still not 100% convinced that it's a guitar at the start of that track. The drums sound great. I love the kind of that heavy reverb on the snare that they do. It just, the way it just kind of rings out over the whole thing. Sounds huge. It's not a track with a lot of twists and turns compared to some of the other stuff, but it just kind of delivers the heaviness and the atmosphere in spades. Maledictus, very similar in style to the Tyrant's Covenant. It's not overly flashy, so although I like the track, I don't know if I would have placed it right next to the Tyrant's Covenant. I think those two tracks would have probably worked interspersed between tracks earlier in the album. Just that the kind of style of them, there were two of the more kind of simpler tracks on the album, so I maybe would have split them up. But I get, that they were trying to put all the old, or the 2 EPs first and then the 7 tracks then, so I get that. The production is pretty much identical as well. So, those 2 tracks that I was talking about wouldn't have sounded out of place if you'd placed them earlier in the album. And then I really liked the way that the album ended. I thought Argent Debt was a great closer. It's got a kind of bit of everything from the distant kind of arsenal. So I was left kind of feeling satisfied by that last track. As I said, I was a bit apprehensive of this, just because of the sheer kind of magnitude of it. 19 tracks sounds like it's going to be a pretty hefty shift. Amazingly though, it didn't even faze me at all. And I think that for me that says a lot about Distant's style as a band. I think that streak of atmosphere and dread, we've said this before, but it really works in the band's favour here. And I said it on the EP reviews as well. For me, that side of the band stops it from becoming too overwhelming for me. I wanted more after the EPs, and this gave me exactly that. Well, actually more than I expected in terms of the length, but I think the balance of heaviness and atmosphere just kind of keeps me hooked in the whole time. There's enough kind of breathing room on this that, although it's crushingly heavy, I didn't get the fatigue that I was worried that I was going to get on this album. In terms of the last 7 tracks, there were 3 that kind of stood out: Vermillion Rivers, Tyrant's Covenant, and Argent Debt. As for the rest, one was an intro, and then Hull of Crows, it was kind of more like a kind of heavy interlude, that track, to be honest. And then Ravka we'd already heard from the Dusk of Anguish EP, and Maledictus I would have placed somewhere else in the album. I wasn't sure about it next to the Tyrant's Covenant. But that aside, I'm really impressed that they managed to pull something of this scale off. I need to give them props for that. I kind of love to know how they do this. Like, what is the process for recording a distant release? I think that'd be quite interesting to know, but that's just me. Anyway, I shall move on. Duncan, what did you make of this one?
It's too long. Is the short answer is it's too long.
Wait till I took a drink there, didn't you?
Yep, it's too long. Now I'll preface this by saying I really enjoyed both EPs. So if you go back and listen, I think Distant in EP form is fucking great. My concern has been since the start and will continue to be that deathcore as a genre albums should never be longer than 45 minutes, in length. Full stop. And this one is once again a shining reminder of why that is the case. There isn't a bad song on here. It's just I check out. I completely check out. By about track 13, I'd checked out. I was flipping through Facebook. And it's not because I'm not interested in the music. I am interested in the music, but this totally sounds like an album where an EP's been smashed on the end. See when you get to those later tracks, specifically the ritual tracks, I kind of disagree with you. I think these sound more mature and sound different from what came before. They're doing more interesting stuff on it. But it's like fucking 13 songs into the album. It's to me it feels like a departure. Yeah, you're still getting those heavy grooves, but the atmospherics have completely changed. You're getting lead work that you weren't getting previous to this. So it sounds like it's been recorded later and tagged on the end. So that to me there isn't a flow of an album on this, which took me out. But I love the songs, so I'd like when it comes to listening to this, it's going to be listen to it in batches, and I'll really enjoy it. But my opinion has not changed. Deathcore should not be this length. It gets to a certain point where I honestly they don't mix up enough things for me personally to merit an album that's an hour long, and putting a 6.5 minute bonus track at the end, albeit it's a great track, I just call it a track. Why is that a bonus track? It's going out in the album. I'm not aware of anyone that will be buying it and not getting it, or maybe that is the case. But at this stage where you're this far into an album, just release it on the album. That kind of boggles my mind. I also personally think the mash. I said it at the time. The production, there's a noticeable, in my opinion, change of sound between that first EP and that second EP in terms of how the guitars work. I think they were smart in how they did the ordering here, of bringing those in, because to me it saved a bit of monotony is not the right word, but production monotony is removed on that bank. You're right, when you get to Ritual 1 and Ritual 2, you're getting them experimenting with really, really, really interesting stuff. Had this just been an EP, it would have been great. But I mean, if you're a Distant fan, you've already bought the 2 EPs, and now you're buying an album where you've already bought 2/3 of the album. So it kind of, I don't know. The idea of it being kind of conceptual as well. The third installment closing out the trilogy. That to me doesn't make sense as well if you're mixing the tracks up from the first 2 EPs in terms of their order. Surely each tells a story. So that kind of logic behind it is kind of lost on me. But removing all that, I still like Distant. I still think when it comes to deathcore bands and songs, they put together some of the most brutal and interesting stuff out there. It's just better in a shorter format. And no, I stress this, no deathcore album should be longer than 45 minutes. I just don't get the logic behind let's do over an hour. Some prog bands can't pull off over an hour, and their music goes fucking everywhere. So yeah, I mean, it will musically, it'll score pretty well from me because, like I say, I like the band, I like their music, but my reservations coming into this, came true. Not in the first listen. I'll be with you on this one. that the first listen went well because you've got a raft of new tracks at the end. So when you got through it, I was eager to hear where the band was going to go. So that first listen, not a problem. The second and third listen, it's a slog, man. It's a real slog. Yeah, I like I say, I nothing, and I've been saying this for weeks now, nothing would have made me happier than to sit here and say, I was wrong, you were right, Dave. But I genuinely feel it's too long. If this is your first Distant purchase, then this is kind of awesome in that you didn't buy the 2 EPs and you're getting all that music crammed together. But as someone that's been following their journey now since last year, when they kind of came onto our radar, I kind of feel like just give me an EP with the new songs and I would have been happy. So, yeah. That's all I've got to say. Great music, but too long.
Okay. And Kyle?
Too fucking long. Just too fucking long. I'm not kidding. This should have been an EP. I don't get it. Why have they repackaged all of the songs from the past 2 EPs, reordered them, and just shoved them in here? It makes no sense. I'm like, I already heard all these songs. Just give me new stuff. Don't get it. It makes it too long and too boring. I'm sorry, but it really is just unrelentingly heavy for over an hour. And I'm like, all right, great. You can do that. You're really good at it. But I already heard 2/3 of this album. Don't make me pay for it again. Just fuck off and give me the same goddamn EP, you know? It's saying it's the last installment. It's like, no, it's the first 2 installments remixed and reordered and shoved in the middle of this 3rd installment. And just like Duncan said, story-wise, it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. So it came in as a massive confusion for me straight from the start. And to be honest, the songs that are in there, they don't do enough to keep me interested anyway. It's just more of the same unrelentingly heavy, atmospheric, loads of reverb on some snares kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, you do that really well, but give it a fucking rest. Oh my god, break it up a little bit, especially with 19 pissing tracks. So, I don't know, Distant are great, they're really good at deathcore, but they need to fucking mix it up a bit. This is too much. 19 tracks. Of which I can't stress 12 or something were already released on 2 separate other EPs. Is like, that's ridiculous. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? You need to go back to the drawing room and try again. You know, you didn't even do anything different with the songs. You just took the same file, shoved it on a new album, went, there you go, we've got a 19-track album. And everyone went, huh? What? Why? What the fuck? Do not understand.
Because Dave asked for it.
This is Dave's fault. It's not Distant's fault. This is Dave's fault. Take it out on Dave.
If this actually is your fault, then fair enough. If not, they need to start again.
Disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I say,
this is the thing, though.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen with this album. Some people are going to love this. Some people are not so much.
I bet this is music just made to fucking piss you off because it's ordered weird. You've already released it. And that's 2 different points if you can't see it, because it's 2 fucking EPs. And it's just more of the same. It's like, okay, great. It's just fucking annoys me. Otherwise, they're really good at deathcore. They absolutely are. Which is not my favourite genre, but I can withstand it sometimes. And they're really, really, really good at what they do. But they're not good enough for 19 tracks in one go, of which 2/3 I've already heard of. And it's like...
Oh, I wish this was a video cast now. Like, the faces that are being pulled are amazing.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no. Production's really good, though. Those guitar tones are fucking insane. And I want to talk to the people that make it, because they were really, 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 really good. It's like, oh, deathcore does that. They make some insane sounding soundscapes. It's unbelievable. I'm like, how the fuck did he make it sound that big? It's nuts. Yeah. Otherwise, turn it off. Give me something good.
Ratings for this new one from Distant, Aeons of Oblivion. I scored the 2 EPs, both 4s, 4 out of 5s. I think this is consistent with those 2 EPs. Out of the kind of new tracks, there was one was an intro, one was a wee kind of interlude type thing. So, and then there was one that I thought was maybe not in the right place, but I'd say that the last part of this, the kind of trilogy, so to speak, was of the same quality of the first 2 EPs. So Dave of Anguish gives this his seal of approval. I even bought a T-shirt, gents. I will be in Glasgow for the A Hill to Die Upon a tour in 2022. Because that is an insane bill of
I'd like
Mental Cruelty,
absolutely.
Distant,
My favourite thing about
Paleface,
you posting
Crown
that.
Magnetar.
Yeah, my favourite thing about you posting that thing online was I was very thankful that someone had listed the bands out in plain text underneath. Because I literally couldn't fucking read any band logo at all. I was just like, is this just the same band? Like, I don't know. I'll be there as well. I bet you they don't play a fucking hour.
No, not on that bill with 4 bands. I doubt it. Yeah, is it Garage Attic? Garage Attic. Is that the G2? No, where is the Garage Attic?
Attic sounds like it should be upstairs.
Yeah.
But I'm not familiar. Oh, it must be downstairs. It must be a misnomer. It must be underneath the venue. Either way, it's going to be a fucking sweat box. So bring it on.
Jesus, yeah. So I am going with a 4 out of 5. Sorry, that took a long-winded way of getting there, but 4 out of 5 from me. Duncan.
Yeah, once again, in principle, I'm with you. I think it's like the new material is of the same quality as the previous. Although I want to say I might have scored the second EP higher than you. I think I gave the second EP a 4.5. Specifically because they changed the production. I might be wrong about that. It might have still just been a 4, but I've got a vague feeling it might have been a 4.5. This is a 4. I mean, overall, but it's a 4 that, in my mind, is several listens to get through the full album, as opposed to one listen start to finish. This is one of the very few albums that I will break up and listen to, like maybe the first 10 tracks, and then switch it off, and then the following day 11 through 19. I really like, to me, the stuff they did from Rituals 1 through 4 is the stuff I hope they start experimenting more moving forward. It just sounded like, unlike Kyle, I think there is like change in there where they're doing some more like I say, cleaner stuff on the guitar, the atmospherics and the synth work particular, far more interesting. And it gels really well with that heavy stuff they're doing. So yeah, I mean, I don't dislike the music and I don't dislike the band. I just question the length. So yeah, 4.
Okay, and Kyle.
I don't question the music. I don't question the band. I like them. I'll go see them live. I'm sure they're fucking brutal live as fuck. But this was just too fucking long and just weirdly released, and I don't get it. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at a cloud.
Than me, yeah, bastard.
But still, I think I'm just gonna have to just be honest with myself and say 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Okay, that is Distant and Aeons of Oblivion. It's due on June 11th on Unique Leader Records. If you want to check out the band, it's facebook.com/Distant Official. I'll put a little link in the description below to their Facebook and to their Bandcamp, where you can check out the album when it is released. Let us know what you think. If you've heard any of the tracks, which there have been many, let us know what you think of them in the comments below. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thanks once again for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.